In this lesson, we're going to further explore the relationship between the blues scales and the country scales and look at some really neat instant ways that we can put this information to good effect. I'm going to use a 12-bar backing track in the key of A, and I want you to watch what happens as I shift from the first verse, where I'm going to use blues scales to improvise, to the second verse, where I'm going to suddenly jump to the country scale. The sudden change in feel in the sound of the lead line. Hard to describe exactly what that change is, but it's a definite shift in musical flavour. Sometimes when you shift to the country scale like that, it kind of forces you to play a little more melodically, a bit more sort of tunefully, perhaps a little bit less lick based, but that depends a lot on the individual. One of the special features of the major 12-bar blues progression is that you can use either the blues scale or the country scale to improvise over it, pretty much equally. In fact, mixing these two scales together is exactly what many of the blues greats do to create really wonderful sounding blues solos. So let's take a closer look at how, starting with a good knowledge of the blues scale patterns, we can get to the country scale. In the last lesson, we saw how the notes of the G country scale come from the same series of notes as those used for the E blues scales. In music theory, we refer to this relationship between keys that share the same notes as relative keys. We say that G major is the relative major key of E minor. We also say that E minor is the relative minor key of G major. In other words, it's a two-way relationship. Now, blues scales are classified as minor and country scales classified as major. Exactly what determines this classification can be further studied in the music theory section of this site, but for now, if we just remember that as a fact, blues minor, country major. There are actually several ways of working out relative keys, but today we're mainly interested in the practicalities, so I'm just going to show you one simple approach that solves the problem instantly for us. When I think of playing blues scales in the key of A, my first point of orientation is the first position blues scale in A. To play the first position in A, I know that I have to find the note A on the 6th string and place my first finger on that note. I'm then lined up to play the first position in A. And if I want to, I can go on and work out the other positions from there using the drills that we've been over in the orientation lessons. use the licks to connect. Diagonal runs, all those tricks that we've learned in the other lessons. But basically my first point of orientation is there. To get to the country scale in A, I start by locating that same note, A on the 6th string, but instead of lining up my first finger with that note, I line up my 4th finger, the pinky, with it. Allowing my other fingers to fall into their natural places means that my first finger aligns with the note F sharp down here at the 2nd fret on the 6th string. This tells me in effect to think in the key of F sharp, or more specifically to use the F sharp blues scale patterns to give me the notes of the A country scale. Improvising using the country scale is, I think, a little more difficult than using the blues scale. You have to work a little harder at the phrasing. You have to think melodically, make up little tunes. Remember that our main key note has moved from here to here. So if you look at that, that would be an F sharp, and so in the blues scale that would be the key note. Another F sharp, another F sharp. In the country scale we've got A, another A, another A. You can happily recycle the same licks as you've learnt or developed with the blues scales, but more often, most often, you will have to change the last note of the lick to make it sound phrased properly in the country scale sense. So this blues lick, for example, ending on the note F sharp there, would become this. Ending on the A. Something like this in blues would become something like in country. Just changing the last note or continuing the lick onto the A note will give it that country sound. Finally, although we've limited our explanation to the first position for the sake of clarity in this lesson, what goes for one position goes for all 5. So in effect, in order to play the country scale in the key of A, we can use any of the 5 positions of the blues scale in F sharp. That's an important point. Okay, now you can find the backing track for the 12 bar in A from the toolbox to the side of this lesson, and I do recommend spending a bit of time getting used to this shift from blues scale to country scale, and having a go at developing the right sort of phrasing to use the country scale over that. The other thing you'll find in the toolbox under the printout section is a lookup chart that will help you learn off by heart all the related keys, the relative keys. So now I'm going to play out with a demonstration of using the A country scale across the whole fretboard. That means, of course, using the F sharp blues scale patterns, but I'm playing against a backing track that's a 12 bar blues in the key of A. Okay, and then I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. We're going to look at some key country licks.